Number 2 mistake that interpreters make during simultaneous interpretation: following the original word order too close. Most interpreters do this in order to stay very close to the original meaning, but end up preserving the original grammar and syntax when moving from one language to another. The result, well, an unnatural interpretation in the foreign language that sounds funny to the native speaker's ear. And yes, most interpreters believe this is only a beginner's mistake, but it's not only a beginner's mistake. It also happens when we are in mental fatigue or we are simply following the speaker too closely. Here are a few signs that you are following the original word order too close. You struggle with finding the right grammar and syntax into the language into which you are interpreting. You are mispronouncing words. And you are misinterpreting what you are hearing. By the end of this video, you will know what to do to avoid this mistake and start transforming your interpretation. So, following the original word order very closely is a common mistake. We want to preserve everything, right, from the original. But here is a universal linguistic rule for you to consider. Are you ready? There is no word-to-word correspondence in any two given languages on this planet Earth. Maybe Mars or Venus, not on this planet, not on this Earth that we live on. With all the languages that are on this world, there are no two languages that will have 100% one-to-one correspondence. That doesn't exist. When we are trying as interpreters to do a word-by-word interpretation and keep the same word order, we're trying to do something that is impossible. And that takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of mental strain. And sadly, it doesn't bring the results that we want in our interpretation. Our interpretation sounds mechanical. Our interpretation sounds unnatural, sounds strange to the native speaker who's listening to us. Our interpretation is not fluent. So I want to walk you through a few considerations of how interpretation works. And please feel free to comment here below this video on what your take on these considerations are. I would love to hear your opinion. So the number one consideration is, in interpretation, we go from one language, which is the original language we're listening to a second language, which is the language we are interpreting into. And when we do this, interpreters focus on main ideas, focus on details and linguistic nuances. Interpreters do not focus on isolated words. Second consideration, there is a process that happens between the input of the original language and the output, which is the language produced in interpretation. This process is about applying cognitive skills to listen and understand, and applying also technique and strategies. The result of these processes is natural and fluent interpretation. Have you ever listened to somebody's interpretation and be like, I understand what is being said, but it doesn't sound like my language. That is what happens when we are interpreting following a word by word approach. And number fourth consideration, letting go of the original word order and focusing on meaning and restructuring for a natural interpretation is what helps interpreters be faster in their process and what gives them freedom in their interpretation. Raise your hand if you want more of that. Who wants more freedom and speed in interpretation? I do. So, to have an advantage in this process, interpreters sharpen their listening skills, their comprehension skills, and they have an ample repertoire of techniques and strategies. And in my program, interpreters get to learn technique and strategies so that they can then decide which ones work best with their personal way of processing information and with their language combination. My purpose as a coach is to show my interpreters all the possibilities available. My student interpreter's job is to choose the ones that work for them. In the meantime, I want to leave you with one recommendation on how to avoid this mistake. The recommendation is the following. When going into the language you are interpreting into, or as I said before, it can also be called the target language. When you are going into your target language, ask yourself this question. How can I say this in my target language? How can I say this in Spanish? How can I say this in French? How can I say this in German? How can I say this in Russian or Chinese? Whatever your target language is. This question is a cue for your brain to move from the original language to the language into which you are interpreting. There must be a shift. And this works because interpreters have a very good command and they are very proficient in their languages. This supports them to get the right words to restate exactly why they heard and what they understood. And now what you're thinking, one more thing to do. And yes, simultaneous is about multiple tasking, as I mentioned in my previous video. But here is the beautiful thing. Are you ready? The beautiful thing is that the more you ask this question consciously, the more this question becomes part of your unconscious mental processes. And soon enough, your brain knows how to do it automatically in your process of interpretation. I know, the brain is a wonderful thing. If these concepts resonate with you, I unpack all these concepts in my upcoming workshop, 3-part roadmap to interpreter certification success. Check the details below this video. So now, let's recap. The number 2 mistake most interpreters make during simultaneous interpretation is following the original word order too close. Why you should not follow the original word order too close? Number 1, there is no one-to-one correspondence in any 2 languages on planet Earth. That's a universal linguistic law. Number 2, this approach leads to mental fatigue and misinterpretation. And number 3, your interpretation is going to be mechanical and unnatural. And we don't want that. We want none of it. So, one way to get over this is the following. When going into the language you are interpreting into or your target language, ask yourself the following question. How can I say this in my target language? Yes. If you want to go deeper into these concepts, I am hosting a live online workshop, 3-part roadmap to interpreter certification success. Click the link below to join me. And by all means, stay tuned for number 3 mistake most interpreters make during simultaneous interpretation in my next video.